Hello, hello, hello. It is
Hello.
Friday. I don't even know what day it is. I started down that path. I'm like, I don't know what day it is. It's Friday, September 8th, 2023. Welcome back, everyone. After a little bit of a hiatus when we said we were like, oh, we may or may not take one, but we're like, you know what? We're taking one. So, welcome back, everyone. For those of you who are watching live and those of you who are watching the replay, this is the Hire Me Podcast live show. My name is Chris Lynn, and with me is my co-host, Heather Balcerek.
Hi. Welcome to Friday.
Frivolous Friday, funny Friday, all the silly things.
I'm so excited for today. So just so everyone knows, we usually don't have a plan for these. So it happens, it's like Friday morning or Thursday night. One of us will be like, what do you want to talk about? We're like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. So Chris has some really awesome things today. So I'm excited to jump in there. But I want to say that if you have, or if you know of anybody looking for a role, please give them this information, like give them our site, send them our calendar links. I haven't had a ton of interviews lately, but I would love to help some people. I've seen a lot of different layoffs happening lately, and so we would love to take 15 minutes of your time, walk you through this interview. It's like a video resume almost, right? Just takes you through some really typical questions. You get to re-record if you say it wrong, like so it does. You can look and sound like you want, and we'll put that out there, and you can share it with your contacts, hiring managers, recruiters, whoever. It's just a great way to get your name out there in a different way, and also to help you prepare for interviews. It's really a good tool for that too. So, but yeah, but serious plug. Like I want to talk to some people. I feel lonely.
Yeah. So again, if you're looking for a job or someone looking for a job, our QR codes are right here for you to where's my finger? There. It's right there for you to use your phone, scan the QR code, and you can schedule time with either of us. I am on the West Coast. Heather is on the East Coast. So again, we're here to elevate today's top talent. And Sandy is here.
Speaking of top talent,
Hey,
Sandy
Sandy.
was a
Good.
guest on the podcast.
Yes, she was. And she says the process is great. And we are glad that it was so good for you. Yeah,
Yes.
you're welcome. I actually, Heather, to that point, I actually did interview someone this week, and I have to edit it and send it out. But he asked beforehand, and he was like, "Hey, what if I mess up?" And I'm like, or he's like, "Well, I have a few different answers that I could answer for each question." So as I'm like, is it okay if I pause? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, because we can edit that. That's a 1 second edit on video and audio. It's so easy. And he's like, cool. And that's exactly what happened in the moment. Is he was like, okay, let me look at my answers, and he took about 5 seconds. I'm like, no problem. So yeah, you won't even be able to tell when the video comes out. You won't even be able to tell when the audio comes out. It's just so simple. Well, today is a catch-up day to figure out what is happening in the labor market and what's just going on. So if you are watching live, we would love to hear from you and tell us what you are seeing, what you're experiencing in today's job market. I pulled up layoffs.fyi. Again, both Heather and myself came from tech organizations that did massive layoffs. And actually, for me, it's closing in on a year. It was almost a year ago at this point. And so, I just figured, let's look at what is happening with tech companies so far in 2023. Unfortunately, right now, we're just about to hit 1,000 different tech companies that have done layoffs, reported layoffs for the year. We are at 998. And based on the reporting with this website, we're sitting at just over 230,000 people who have been laid off this year from tech companies. And that's just tech companies. We don't know, there's no great data around other organizations or other types of industries. So we can only imagine that that number is higher.
Yeah. Wow. The fact that close to 1,000 companies, like, that in itself is crazy. And then to think about the total number and just that's heavy. That's heavy on my heart. Like, I
Yeah.
it that's really sorry, trying to find my words right now. But oh, oh gosh, so LinkedIn user, I don't know who LinkedIn user is, but hi. Uh, LinkedIn user, sorry, said experiencing a lot of recruiter calls and ghosting from them, exhausted after 8 months of trying to find a job. I understand, um, and I am extremely thankful that I was able to find something, fairly quickly after I was laid off, but I will say from the number of things I applied for, the non-responses, I mean, I finally got a no thank you from somebody, like, a couple of weeks ago that I applied for in February. I mean, that, like, but the number of places that I didn't hear anything from was
Yeah.
just a little disheartening, especially when you're out there trying to find a job, and I would say just, I know it's exhausting, if you haven't taken, the time to step away for a weekend, a day, whatever you can, half a day, here and there, like, step away and reset yourself, because it is exhausting, um, and know that, if there's anything we can do for you, please do not hesitate to let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Our information is in the show notes and all of that. So if you want to reach out, feel free to reach out. We are here to help. The caveat there is that Heather and myself are not recruiters. We are in the learning and development space, and we thought, hey, we can help. We can use our platform and our abilities as podcasters to elevate people. So this is what we're here for. This is what we want to do, and this is what we like to do on Fridays: is share information with those of you who are job seeking to say, hey, this is what you can do. We actually did just have a guest a few weeks ago who was talking about self care. So
Huh.
again, our platform's not showing us your name, so
I
unfortunately,
sorry.
yeah, you show up as a LinkedIn user. Sorry
You're
about
very
that, but
welcome.
please, if you haven't already, go back and you can explore previous videos either on our YouTube or LinkedIn page. On if you just search "hire me," it'll show up.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of, what's going on in these massive layoffs, I wanted to read. It's kind of hard to get a true gauge of what's going on if you're just looking at LinkedIn posts. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to go on Reddit because it's a lot easier to consume, one, but then you can vote for things, right? Like things can get upvoted or downvoted, and you can see how much people agree. And those things tend to, certain topics and things can float to the top. And so this one got posted actually not that long ago, and there's a lot of votes on it already. And it's titled "There's massive layoffs happening right now for remote roles. It's not going to get easier, it's going to get harder." And in it, they said, been seeing a lot of people on my LinkedIn experiencing layoffs. In fact, one of the positions I applied for but pulled out of due to me traveling ended up laying off a huge amount of people. So if I did end up with a new job, I just would have been laid off in another 5 months anyway. Um, I
Mm,
have so many things to think about that. I actually experienced that myself earlier this year when I was job hunting. I got very far into the interview process. And right before I got an offer, I was talking to the hiring manager. She said, I want to extend an offer to you, but we just got hit with the hiring freeze. Don't wait, still go search. But if I could offer it to you today, I absolutely would. And so I said, okay, great. And then come to find out, maybe about 3 months later, her entire department, the organization went through massive layoffs. So it's happening everywhere, unfortunately. And to the person, this Reddit post point, remote roles are absolutely, unfortunately, under attack because of the push for return to office.
Yeah. Mm. Uh, it makes me just, I don't know. I have so many things I could go so many directions with this. Chris,
This
I
this
really
this one's
could.
heavy, right? Like we're talking
It
about
is.
like remote roles, we're talking about massive layoffs, we're talking about organizations still hiring, knowing when they're going to lay people off. There's so many different layers to this, and to
Yeah.
me, what that screams is just a massive dysfunction in leadership for knowing their long-term plans.
Yes.
Like
Agreed.
that, yeah, that's just my thought.
I think about you talked just a second about, how the role you got pretty far for ended up being hiring freeze. They ended up being laid off. I think about, I was laid off from Amazon and in January, and then they've gone through a couple different layoffs, but now like the big thing in the news is return to office and that push. And I know that if I had not been laid off right now, I would be having to make the decision to go to an office somewhere. I don't even know where that would be for me.
Yeah,
If I would have to go all the way to Tampa, if there's somewhere closer, like I have no clue. And I would be sitting here in the position of going, well, I guess I'm going to find another job because going back to the office is not something I'm interested in. Um, it's not it's not proven to be more effective. I actually got a thing from Amy Bartell, who is a guest on the show recently. She was sending me something the other day, and was a quote that said about 52% of remote capable U.S. workers are operating under hybrid arrangements, according to data from Gallup, while 29% are exclusively remote. And though executives like Meta's Mark Zuckerberg have argued that the rise of flexible work um, has had a bad effect on productivity. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that labor productivity rose 3.7% in the second quarter of 2023 and is up 1.3% compared to this time last year.
yeah.
I- Like,
I
it's there. Like, the data is there. I understand you've big investments in real estate, big investments in these giant offices, and you need butts and seats. Understandable. You got to alter your process though.
yeah,
The solution isn't just get people back in the office. Maybe the solution is, well, what could we put here? Is there something we could put here? Like, how could we use this space for good versus people that are going to be upset that they have to come back to the office
yeah, exactly.
and then lose good talent?
Yeah, it's completely baffling to me how these organizations are making decisions like that. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm hiring for a technically remote role right now, and the number of applicants that I've gotten is amazing because it is a remote role. We do ask, some of part of the search is like that they're around certain cities due to like pay or due to the ability because we have a large employee population in that space, but it's not like like asking them to like come in. Like I don't care. I know that I think like you're in the similar boat as a hiring manager, right? Like as a
Yeah.
manager, Heather, it's like, are you doing your work? The stuff getting done? Cool.
Yeah, I'm like,
Don't care.
"Okay." Like, "Cool, is it done? Awesome. Did
Yeah.
you send me the link so I can look at it? Perfect,
Yeah.
great, thanks."
Yeah.
Did you
See you
mark it
later.
off on Monday? Like, did you put it in the software? Like, that's
Yeah.
that's at this point, that's what I'm doing. Now, I understand that having managed, like, call center employees in tech support, it is different for hourly employees. It is a little bit, more like, I don't wanna say micromanagement, but, like, you still have to trust, but you have to guide, so
Yeah.
it's a little different in the 2.
Yeah.
But I think that there are so many things that can be done that aren't being done. from a company standpoint of, let's put out these positions that, we need. Theoretically, we say we need them, but then we'll either A, never hire for them, or B, hire people and then we're going to end up laying off people. There are
Yeah.
always unforeseen circumstances, and I get that. Those are the exceptions, not the rules. Um, there was a post, and what's funny is Sandy actually posted this on LinkedIn, and I had actually already taken a screenshot of this job posting and was about to post it myself because this posting said, um, it was remote, and then it said, um,
I saw this post and then it said it was hybrid, right?
it said, okay, look, there we go. Okay, so it said United States parentheses remote. And then you get down to the about the job, about the position. It gives you a paragraph and says, this role will be on site in Marshall, Michigan.
Yeah. Just no.
What?
No. No.
That is
No.
so
No.
misleading for a candidate and so disheartening because you're like, oh, look, a role. This is a good company because it's Ford, a motor vehicle company. Like, okay, if you're looking for that kind of industry, you're thinking, oh, great, it's a remote position. This is awesome. And you pull it up and you're like, and no, like that's
And
just
and look, I understand talent acquisition is difficult and recruiters' jobs are tough and they need to try and source as many people as they can. But utilizing this tactic to cast a broad net and then narrow it to me automatically says I do not trust you as a company.
100%.
Even if I were in that location or near it, I would be like, I don't trust you. That's sketchy. Off the
Yeah.
bat, that's a red flag. Like, just don't do that. And when we talk about these tactics that companies use, Heather, I'm going to go into another Reddit post.
Okay.
This one's titled "Rejected After 7 Rounds of Interviews for an Entry Level Job." You ready for this? Went through 7 rounds of interviews, did a week-long exercise where I made a whole tracking system for them. They said they wanted to move forward with me, and as a last step, check my references. This is when they started ghosting me. They bothered all of my references, sending intense questionnaires, and after they responded, the recruiter said they were going to pass for now as they chose someone with 6 years of experience for the entry-level role. I'm also an international student, so I have very little time to find a job after graduating, or I have to leave. So I'm really stressed as this company wasted almost a month of my time. So many things here. Like, you should not be hiring or putting people through 7 rounds of interviews, regardless of level and like technical expertise or whatever,
Yeah.
let alone an entry level role.
Yeah.
You should not be asking for free work. If any company, if you're listening or watching this, if any company is asking you for free work, ask them to what their rate is for consultants, because they should be paying you a consultant rate during that time. And then, so don't do free work. And if they are that aggressive and they started ghosting you, that's a huge red flag. I'm sorry. I feel so
Mm,
bad for this person that they got rejected, but
yeah.
that's annoying.
Yeah. And especially because, they mentioned they're an international student and that's I had several international students when I worked in the college program at Apple that, they would ask if they could apply and we weren't able to sponsor visas in our program. We couldn't sponsor a student visa. And so I would have to tell them no. And it always made me so sad because I was like, these, they are smart and capable. We didn't have the ability to give them a position. And so I really feel like companies that should make that known, and they should be like seeking that out
Yeah.
more so. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's a whole other type of recruiting, by the way. Like that's definitely a very, I would almost say, specialized kind of recruitment, is being able to navigate that process with a candidate. Um, I want to go back because Sandy just put in the chat a few minutes ago. She said, I had an interview today for a job that I applied for that was advertised remote, but the recruiter said it was on site. A total waste of time.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Sandy.
Yeah.
That's
I
yeah. I just don't know what to say anymore to these like stories, like these recruiters and hiring managers that do a bait and switch like that. It's just
yeah.
unacceptable. I just don't understand it.
And I always want to assume positive intent, just like so the person that went through 7 interviews, right? Assume positive intent of what's happening. Still 7 is like a lot. That's way too much in a week long, like like
Test,
what
yeah,
in the
no.
world? Like that's absurd. Uh, but um, I think it's um, sorry, that thought just I don't
Flitted.
know where it went. I don't know where it went. It just went
It's
away.
okay. I mean, when you're looking at, you were talking about positive intent, right? And so with positive intent, there's on one hand there's positive intent, and then on the other hand, you need to put on like your design hat and say, okay, I have this intent. How would this, like, let me go on the flip side and see how this would be experienced by the other person.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, yeah. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
get it.
Like, I would hope, I mean, I'm not saying that there are not recruiters and companies out there that aren't doing bait and switch on purpose. I'm sure that there are. I wonder though sometimes how many are like they don't mean for it to be, but that's how it is coming across because they're not thinking about it from the candidate perspective. I need to go look up that job again on LinkedIn and see if they changed it because
Yeah.
maybe they did.
Yeah.
Because mistakes do happen too.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are lots of buttons that you have to press when you put a job up on LinkedIn, or it may be feeding from a system in that
True.
and it doesn't
Yep.
read. So again, positive intent, right? But there's that checks and balances. You have to check it,
Yeah.
and be mindful of that. I think that's really, an important piece of the puzzle on all sides, but definitely recruiters and hiring managers, like, please make sure.
Yeah.
Please double check.
Yeah.
There's a topic that at some point, I know we got guests, for the next couple of episodes, but there's a topic that I'd love to maybe get into in the future, and that is, um, kind of the change. I've seen a lot of, interesting, like, articles and thoughts about, like, how to change the job, like, description, like changing that to be more like what you actually need, and so, maybe I'll pull some of that stuff together, and we can talk about that, at some point in the future, Chris,
Yeah, absolutely.
because
Sandy actually just put in a question. She says, I have a question for you both. When we talk about free work, are you just referring to the interview process? For example, I just landed a volunteer position for a nonprofit as a training manager. This is technically free work, but it will look great on my resume. That is a great distinction. If you are going in as a volunteer for a nonprofit, right, you can technically list them as an employer. You're still
yeah,
being employed by them in a formal capacity, right? What I mean by free work is during the interview process, they ask you to crunch numbers for them. They ask you to go through an assessment. They ask you to do, hey, take a look at this project that we're working on. What are your thoughts and opinions? That is free work. Like, if they're asking you to weigh in on something that they already do, or that they have that capability, if they're asking you, they're asking everyone else, which means they're trying to source the best idea or source multiple ideas, and that's not okay.
yeah. There's a line, and I know Chris, for several positions you applied for, and same here, had to do, like a presentation, right? I got
Mhm.
a scenario and had to put together a presentation. Um, it was a 15-minute presentation. So, that I mean, I still had to put a lot of work in, the job itself, I do facilitate, I do have to do those things. I needed to show those skills, but it wasn't so in depth of like, here's all the data and create a report for us.
Mhm.
It's a line. There was another one that I did where I had to record myself giving a presentation, and they didn't give me kind of any scenarios. They just said anything leadership development. So I had one that I had already made, for something else, and I was like, okay, I can just pull this out and do it. And upload it. So it was nothing too strenuous on my time to do that.
Yeah.
But I know that there are other places that do ask you to do like some really in-depth things and really just take a look at it and say, is this too much?
Yeah.
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 Are they trying to get free work?
Yeah, exactly. And I would yeah, I would say just kind of trust your gut on those. And again, you can always reach out to your network and friends and colleagues and say, "Hey, I'm being asked to do this. Do you feel like this is work, or do you feel like could be actually legitimately part of the process?" Um, yeah, it's okay to do that as well.
I think, and I know we've got to wrap up in a second, but thinking about, the free work and having to do presentations and things like that in an interview process, one of the like kind of red flags or like things to really look for is what's the turnaround time they're giving you? Are they saying on a Friday, like, hey, you're making it to the next round. Can you present on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Like is that really, typical? And think about, well, is this what they do in their day to day? Are they going to come to me on a Friday and expect me to present like something, large and brand new on Wednesday? Like, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I would love to. Can I do it on Friday? Like, can you give me a week?
Yeah.
Really think about that too when companies are asking you to turn around something big like a presentation
Hmm.
quickly,
Yeah.
because you want to put your best foot forward.
And one more piece to this is we talked about this a few weeks ago with one of our guests as well, is the importance of a portfolio. If they're asking you for work and you have something comparable in your portfolio, you could say, "Hey, I've actually done this for this client or for this team." Rather than me do that, if you would like to see my capability, here you go. And then you can have a back and forth. I think part of what is difficult for job seekers and candidates is that the power does truly lie on the employer, the hiring team. However, it is more than okay to push back. I know it's very difficult, especially if you've been searching for a long time. Those pressures, that stress, that fear, and just wanting to get a job, totally get it. We've Heather and I have both been there. Um, I still say, please advocate for yourself, because it's not just for your own well-being, but it's also for your own stability.
Yeah. And LinkedIn user, um, wish I knew who this was. Said, in my downtime, I'm brushing up on skills in Excel, AI, regulations, etc. That is absolutely something that in your downtime you can do, um, because that's something when they ask you, right? Like, why are you looking for a job? You can, tell that as part of your layoff story of like, hey, well, I was a part of the, reduction in workforce at X, at X company. But in the meantime, as I've been looking for a new job, I've been learning these skills to keep my continuous education. Like, put that in there because that is still work. You're not stagnant. You're still learning. And it's a fantastic thing to be doing. So,
Yeah, 100%. By the way, Heather, I was like, I'm so curious who this person is. I'm not gonna. I went on our like LinkedIn page and went
uh-huh.
to it, so it shows your name, but I'm not gonna call you out because you might be someone new, and I don't know if I don't want to just out you like that and just say,
We
"Hey, this is who
appreciate
you
you.
are." We just want to say we appreciate you joining us. Everyone that has joined us live, thank you so much. We are really, really excited because we have guests the next 2 weeks, and starting next week, we have someone who is an experienced talent leader, career coach. She's been an advisor to startups, and she is an advocate for people with over 10 years of holistic approach to recruiting and HR. She is the founder of Good People, which is a startup focused on which is a startup for experienced HR, finance, and operations leaders. So she is really, her name is Susie Choi. She's going to come on next week and talk about the candidate experience in the hybrid environment. So that's who's coming up next Friday, if I'm doing math right, the 15th.
15th, yeah.
The week after, we have a guest who's focused on career transformation, and she specializes in those people or individuals who are looking for a mid-career shift or transformation. And so she's going to talk about how to pivot if mid-career. And so her name is Katie Crafts. She will be with us on September 22nd to talk about career transitions and hiring people in leadership roles.
Fantastic. Oh, I'm so excited about these. And LinkedIn user, I'm so glad that you found us.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. Sandy, thank you for your contributions as well. And again, for all of you who are watching this live or after it's been recorded, I don't know.
We don't either.
Yeah, we don't either. I have no idea. I don't
It
know why
is
it
what
doesn't
it
show
is
your name.
sometimes.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for watching, listening to the Hire Me Podcast live show. Again, we do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you or anyone you know is job hunting and you would like a new way to elevate and stand out, you can sign up for, I still don't know where my finger is for this QR code thing. You can sign up for a free 100% free, no strings attached video resume where we will create, where we'll interview you and create a video for you to feature on your profile on LinkedIn. You can send to hiring managers, hiring teams, recruiters, so you can just stand out just that much more. And as always, we are on both YouTube and LinkedIn. And
your
make
favorite
sure
podcast platform.
Yes, and your favorite podcast platform. There are, if we listed them all, like this whole screen would be covered.
Yeah.
So, so make sure you follow and subscribe to us everywhere you watch on YouTube or LinkedIn, and listen to your favorite podcasts.
Yes. Thanks
Rant
everybody
over.
for being here.
Thanks,
we will
y'all.
see you next week with our special guest.
See you later.